Hey, thank you everyone for joining us for today's On the Air with ODA, Oracle Database Appliance. We have a really interesting topic. It's rapid standby database cloning for test and dev. And we're also going to talk a little bit about the Oracle Database Appliance 19.7 release that just happened yesterday. With me today is my colleague, Paul. Paul?
Hi,
Are you there, Paul? Perfect. So the agenda that we have for today is we'll first talk about the 19.17 release, what it includes. Then Paul is going to tell you all about the rapid standby database cloning for test and dev. Then after that, I'll come back and I'm going to give you a quick demo video that we did on this and give you some additional information. And then we can do a Q&A session, but feel free to start dropping some of your questions. I see that we don't have a Q&A tab, but I guess you can use the chat. Okay, so let's get started. So 19.17 was just released yesterday, and actually on 11:30, right? It's and this release includes the Oracle Database release updates from October. And there are two versions that we support, the 21C and the 19C. Here you see the actual day code for the releases. So the main enhancements, it's not a loaded major release. So there are just some enhancements that are going to help with the serviceability, maintenance of and management of the unit. So the first one is this error correlation reports on the buoy. Sometimes when there is a failure and it's not easy to identify where to go, what to do next, with this new feature, right, it's gonna provide more information for the user as to which way, right, to go forward to get to the error resolution. Another one, the next one is support for Linux kernel core extractor on the Oracle Database bare metal system. Sometimes, right, a kernel panic may occur and you don't have any idea what it is, right? With this release, the kernel core extractor is enabled, and this is going to help troubleshoot the appliance. The third one that you see here is today, if you have, or if you want to patch a database and say that you have an Oracle database home, you have 3 or 4 databases in that home, everything is going to be patched, right? Some customers wanted to just patch an individual database. With this release, you're now able to do that, right? Individual database. There are other enhancements on data guard patching, the browser user interface, support for stick version 2. We continue to support the Oracle Enterprise Manager plugin, and you can access all the Oracle Appliance database documentation from the browser user interface. So at the end of this slides, we give you some links, or you can just go to the Oracle Database Appliance documentation and take a look at the release notes for more details, deeper details than this high-level information that we're giving you. Okay, and so we also just updated the blog, and you can find these tables that I'm showing you. Right, what is the Oracle Database Support in bare metal? Right, you can see 19.17 all the way on the right-hand side, and we only support the 19C now. The reason is that all the other ones have reached the end of support at Oracle. But if you look at the note underneath the table, we still get some customers who say, hey, I want to run the 11C or 12C databases, right, in the Oracle Database Appliance. You can do it in a virtual machine, but that means that everything is going to be manually patch configured, right? It's we don't provide the clones anymore for those versions. So obviously we recommend our customers to just upgrade to the 19C as soon as they can, right? Since that is the long-term database release. And then at the bottom, you see the database support for the DB systems, which is the KVM for Oracle database, right? The 21C, because it was an innovation release, it's only supported with the Oracle Database Appliance in the kernel virtual machines, right? On these virtual machines. And we also support the 19C as you see in this table. Now, on this set of matrices here, right, just a quick reminder that we test qualify the last 4 versions of the Oracle Database Appliance software to patch to the latest. This doesn't mean that earlier, right, like more than 4 are not going to work, right? It's some customers who have a test system, right? They can go ahead and try it. If everything works fine, they can just do that. But it's not well, we always keep it to the last 4, right? We want you to be on one of the last 4s, to be on the latest with all the security fixes, bug fixes, etc. So here you see the bare metal table, the virtualized table, and just for reference, the OVM, right? That is, we're not releasing new versions for that platform. So with this, I'm going to pass it on to Paul to tell you everything about the main topic today. Paul, go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Carlos. So today our topics actually, the main topics actually, it's about cloning databases in ODA. And this feature has actually been with ODA all along. It's just that over time, we have enhanced the capability of the cloning of the Oracle database in ODA. Now, I think it's really kind of fully supported now, especially with, for example, integrated data guard, the ability to clone standby databases. So it really makes a very compelling capability for our customers to be able to rapidly clone a database and in a very efficient manner. So I'll go through some of the underlying technology and then and talk about the reason why we're doing it. And then we're going to go through the step-by-step demo so you can see all the commands that we use to be able to do these, right? So let's review the snapshot technology first. What it is, it's really leveraging the underlying ACFS file system snapshot capability so that we're able to, with the ODA command, to make a clone of the database very quickly. So we could do this in about 9 minutes, and we'll show you in the demo. Regardless of your source database, it could be a 1 terabyte database or a 10 terabyte database, we can make a copy in about 9 minutes. And what it is after this clone is finished, it's actually a standalone database. For practical purposes, the user sees a fully functioning instance running and all the data files. And then you can make changes, and we'll show you how we make changes to the clones. And it's completely independent. So it does not depend on the source database. So you could delete the source database, and we'll show you how to do that. And then the new clone is still up and running. Okay, and it's very space efficient because it's based on the copy on write ACFS snapshots. So the actual storage usage, it's only anywhere from 2% to 10% of the original database. So if you have a terabyte database, you can make 2 copies, and every developer or tester is going to think he has the whole terabyte of database, but in reality, it's only occupying, anywhere from 2 to 10%. So it's very space efficient. So it's fast, space efficient, and it's completely integrated with the ODA framework. So you don't have to know ACFS command. You just have to know one ODA CLI command to be able to do that. And so we'll show you some of the details. Now, Oracle Data Guard, obviously, most of you know what it is. And just to refresh it, the idea is that we have second copy of the database. This is primarily to use for disaster recovery for Oracle database. And basically we apply the redo logs to the standby, the second copy of the database on a secondary side or standby. Now, why are we using the snapshot with standby? There are two reasons. One is to really leverage the resources available on the standby location. And then also we can take a snapshot of the standby database and make that a functional database for testing and for doing development work. Now, another good reason to do this is that the standby database is very closely in sync with the primary or production database, so you can refresh the clones very quickly, without having to recopy over the whole database. Again, we have some customers that are doing that. They're constantly doing, RMAN duplicate to copy the whole database over to get the latest Go image. For us, using the standby database, pretty much you can at any time get a fresh new Go image, and we'll show you how we did that in our demo. So that's one of the reasons we're combining the cloning technology and the data guard technology, and so really leverage the strengths on both of these features. So about a year ago, we introduced this integrated Oracle data guard features with ODA. So you can actually, once you instantiate or make a copy of the second database on the standby side, we can just with one command set up the data guard for you. So you don't have to know all the the details about data guard technology. Now that you have two ODAs, we can very quickly set up the data guard between the two ODAs, and we're going to show you. And you can typically do this in about 20 minutes, so it's very efficient. And now there are a number of ways to instantiate the standby database or make a copy of the second database on the second ODA. We can do either by external NFS, to back up to the external NFS, or we can do on the cloud. We have integrated backup to the cloud feature. So if you have a cloud account, you can also back up your database to the cloud. And then in both cases, you restore to the second standby. Now, we found out we have a way to do this without using either one of those two methods. It's by directly NFS mount the standby ODA. So this is what we're going to show you. Again, it's very effective and efficient way of doing this without any external storage. So we'll show you the steps in our demo as well. And so we'll show you the steps to actually instantiate. So we actually have a separate webcast that went through step by step. So we're not going to focus too much on this in this webcast, but we do have a previous webcast that talks about step by step doing this. So we'll quickly show you how we did it. You create a ACFS on the standby and configure NFS, then you mount the file system, and that's it. Then you restore the database from the backup, and then after that, then you can do the configuring data guard very quickly. So we'll go through that. So once that's set up, once you have the data guard running, so this is kind of the meat of the demonstration today we're going to show you. Effectively, what we're going to do is we're going to create a table on the primary database and then take a snapshot. So that would be our Go image 1. And then after that, then we're going to go into the primary database and change the table value and take another snapshot, and that would be our Go image 2. After we create a Go image 2, we're going to take a snapshot of the Go image, and that would be your clone database at time 2. So that so as you can see, you can quickly refresh the Go image because it's basically off the standby, and so there are a number of benefits of doing that. Then we're going to delete the Go image 2 to show you that the clone image of that is still up and running. That database is still up and running, so that's completely independent of the Go image and of the standby database. So that's kind of what we'll show you. So again, there are a lot of different applications, right? Obviously for testing, for developers, you can have many developers and take different copies at different time stamp, and then it's very powerful architecture and then very space efficient, be able to do that. And again, the reason we use standby is that it really does not impact the production of the primary database, and also we can refresh the Go image very quickly. So with that, I think I'm going to pass on to you, Carlos, to do to show them the step by step, unless you have something else to add.
Well, we're gonna talk about the benefits, but I want to make a comment here, Paul, right? Because to for for our customers, right? It's we have on this primary database, as changes are happening, right? The redo log shipment is just happening very often, very fast. So this database here is just always, almost almost up to date, right? It's all the time, and taking the clone. I know that some customers may be thinking, well, because you said 9 minutes, 8 to 9 minutes, right? It's I mean, when we take clones on some storage systems, is as instantaneous as the snapshot, right? You can just in 1 to 2 seconds you have it. But as Paul mentioned, I mean, these databases are online, ready to be used right away. So there is a lot more, and we're going to show you that we do than just taking the clone, right? So Paul, let's talk about the benefits before we go to the demo.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yes, so I stated this before, right? The really primary win here is that you can do this very quickly, regardless what your original database size is or the standby database size is. So and we'll show you in the demo that we took like 3 snapshots. Each of them is about the same amount of time, about 8 to 9 minutes. And by the end of that, as I said earlier, an independent database is up and running. So whether you're doing testing or doing development work, you have the database ready to go, right? And it's very space efficient, 2 to 10% of the original database size. It really depends on the size of the database and how much rewrite activity you're using on that clone. And then there's no impact to both the primary and the standby database because it's a separate copy of the database. So that's really important for customers that are running production database and they don't want any development or testing impacting the primary. So standby is the way to go. And again, it's almost like Carlos says, continuous go image refresh, right? Because standby is always getting, the redo log applied, right? So it's going to be, very much in sync with the primary. So you don't have to copy a separate database to get a second go image. So this is done continuously. That's why it's really nice to be able to do this on the standby database. And it does not require active data guard, right? Because if you want to open up the standby for read functions or reporting, you have to purchase an active data guard license. But with this capability, no active data guard is involved because standby database is still always in the recovery mode. And then the best thing is with all these capabilities, right? Integrated data guard, the cloning technology, the database cloning technology, it's all free to ODA customers, right? No additional cost. If you go by Delphix, it's a license cost, right? If you do a lot of these cloning things, there's all these extra licenses if you do a third-party cloning or storage cloning things. But this is all built into the ODA, so no additional cost to ODA customers.
Yeah, that's really, really good. And so on this slide, you can see the best practices and the requirements, right? So this is between 2 Oracle database appliances. As Paul mentioned already, the database has to be on ACFS, on ACFS. And so we recommend if you have an NFS server, you can just go ahead and do it. But if you don't, we're going to show you the process to just use the target Oracle database appliance. We recommend that you use 19.11 or higher. Obviously, we always want you to be on the latest or a couple releases behind, but no more than that. And use the same directory name, right, when mounting the NFS on the standby ODA. And we're going to show you that. So let's go to the demo. Okay, you already saw this slide, but I highlighted the first 3 steps, number 1, 2, and 3. As Paul mentioned, we already did this before, but we're going to show you all the steps anyway, just very fast or much faster than usual. Okay, so let me let me start. Right, so right here, the first step, right? We change to the user grid, run ASM CMD, and we are creating a volume, 100 gigabytes. We call it backup 5. Then we get the information in this volume. We're gonna need this volume device path here and the name, right? To create our ACFS, and here, right, we are doing it, and you can see here, make file system ACFS. Once we do that, right? Oh, one important thing. So you can see here in the CLI that there's a few tabs open, and there's going to be more open. But keep an eye for the last 2 digits, right? 18. That's our target. That's where we are sending our redo logs, where the standby resides, right? And the other one is 07. That's the source. That's where our database is at. So right now we are operating on the target, right? That's where we created the volume. And now we're going to make the directory ODA backup 5. That's what we called it. And here you saw that it already exists, right? We have already created it, but for you, it'll just create it. Now, after we do that, then we register that volume with clusterware, right? This is the command, right, with the parameters that we set. And then the second one is we start that file system. Okay, so once we do that, then the next step is to just open the exports file so we can indicate, right, or export that mount point. And this is our test system, the source, right? So it can have the permissions to access that. So we export all, and then we just double check that yes, our directory is there, right? So once we do that, then notice that I jumped to the 07 tab here, right? Now we're at the source. Now we're gonna make the same directory name. This was the best practice, right? Let's use exactly the same name to avoid any issues. And now you can see here, right, the directory that we created. It is a requirement, right, that we set to Oracle DBA. So we're going to change the ownership on that one on the next step right here. So we changed it. We double check that it's there and it's done, right? Then after that, then we're on the source still. We're going to mount that target system and that directory to our local directory. Okay, so that's done. And now we're going to create a backup configuration, right? We also call it backup policy in the browser user interface, but it's the same thing. And this is it's the way that we do backups in the Oracle Database Appliance. You create a configuration or a policy. You can imagine that if you have access to an object store, to different NFS servers, right? You create different policies, and depending where you want to send your Oracle databases, right? Then you just attach those policies or configurations to your Oracle database so they can go to different locations. So here we're creating the backup configuration, right? We describe the job and it's done. This is really quick, right? Now let's look at our databases. This one here, DB_SF, is the one that we're going to be using for our data guard. Notice that its storage is ACFS. Okay, it doesn't work. Cloning doesn't work with the ASM, only the ACFS. Okay, and here is the command where we modify the database DBSF, and what we're doing is attaching the backup policy that we created. Okay, and this is another fairly quick step. You can go ahead and describe the job to make sure that it was successful. To save time, we're not going to do that here. Okay, so once we do that, right, the database already has the backup policy attached. Before we create the first backup, as Paul mentioned, right, we're going to take this database we connect to it right here. You can see DBSF, and we're going to create a table and just 2 records, something simple to keep track of as we do different clonings. So here we just added 2 records, Scott and Carlos, right? So once that's done, we exit, and now we're going to create the backup, right? You can see here the command ODA CLI create backup. The database is this DBSF, and we're going to create the first regular level 0, which is a full backup. And KA, it's important, it's in this instructions in the documentation, right? We need to keep the archive logs when we are setting up data guard between 2 Oracle database appliances. So we do that, and again, you can just check the job to make sure that it's done. So we're not going to do it here. Once that's done, the backup is done. Then, right, we run this list backup reports, find the one for our level 0, which is this one right here, and we're going to take the ID that you see here at the left, right? And then what we do is we describe that backup report with the ID that we copied, and we're going to redirect this into a JSON file at this location. Now, since we already have an NFS mount point, right, instead of putting it in the temp and then copy it separately, I could just put it on the NFS. But these instructions came from our object store, which you need to do this, and we just wanted to show you these steps anyway, right? So
yeah, I just want to mention the reason why we need this JSON files really allow the ODA on the standby side to restore the database and start up the instance. Yeah, the standby database.
yes, that restore command is going to use this report. Yes, yeah. Right. So here, as I said, right, we're coming from our local location to this target system in the same directory, right? It's very small, so it's done very quickly. And now that we have the backup completed, now and we put in the report in the target system, right? We're ready to set up data guard. And so notice here that I jumped to 18, right? That now I'm on the target system. And so we look at the DB homes that we have. We're going to use it to restore the database. I mean, you can create a new home, but we're just going to use one of the existing ones or the existing one. And here is the command. Well, I said that we're going to run data guard. No, sorry. First, we need to restore the database into a standby before we can run data guard. Okay, so here you can see our command ODA CLI I restore database. Here is the report that we just copied. -u is a unique name. The database, the standby database is gonna have exactly the same name as the primary, but the uname, the unique name, you can decide what it is, right? In this case, we just call it DB Chicago, right? The first one is SF for San Francisco, but now this one we're simulating that the system is sitting in Chicago somewhere. The role of the database is going to be a standby, and here we are indicating the database home where the standby is going to reside. FD is just forces the deletion of any existing files that were previously there, right, before we restore it. And now we restore, give it a password, and then we describe the job, right? So you can see here, started at 8:20, finished at 8:35. So that's about 15 minutes that it took to just take the backup and restore into a standby database that is ready to be synced up for Oracle Data Guard. And you can see here a listing of all the different tasks that were done. Okay, so now I'm still on the target. We had other databases, but you can see here the one that we just restored. into standby, it is configured, ready to be used, right? So now, if we describe the database here, the name DBSF, you can just see database role is a standby and it's an ACFS database. Okay, so with this command, describe database and then the name, you're limited to this information. The unique name is not displayed, so I'm gonna add the -J for JSON format. And that's where we have the database unique name, right? That's where you can find it. Okay, so now I'm gonna show you, now I'm gonna jump to the primary or the source system, just to show you what the unique name is for that one, right? Same database name, DBS_SF, but this is the unique name. And DataGuard, you're gonna see that the default name for the DataGuard configuration, it just takes the two unique names and puts a dash in between them, as I'm gonna show you. So we finished step number 2 and 3. Now we can go to step number 4 to configure DataGuard. Once you configure DataGuard, you need to stop the backups, clean up everything that you did since you don't need it anymore, right? It's we're not gonna show you that here. But look, let's go to configure DataGuard. Let me stop right here. So as Paul mentioned, right, we have a single command. You give it some parameters here. What is the IP address? What is the browser user interface name and the password, right? You give it this information. After that, then it comes back with this default settings, right? If you're okay with the default settings, then you just proceed and into DataGuard. Or you can just, here, do you want to edit this DataGuard configuration? You can click yes and go ahead and change any of these parameters, right? Even including the data configuration name. Notice here that is the first unique name and the target unique name. Okay, so we're not going to change any of that. And this takes about 10 minutes, but we're showing you all of the steps in about 12 seconds, right? It's and here now you can see that it was completed. It set up DataGuard between the two systems and started shipping the redo logs, right? And I'm still on the source, right? 07 right here. And if I do ODA CLI list DataGuard status, you can see here that it's configured, right? But you can see the different values. Here is the name of the configuration, your database name, and this is the primary, right? This database. Now I'm gonna click on the target system. I run the same thing, and you can see the difference, right? The role is the standby. We have some commands to just go ahead and reverse the roles. So you can do system maintenance if you want to, but that's not the purpose of this presentation. You can go to the other one that we did to look at that in detail. Now we're in the target, and we're gonna connect to the database, right? The standby database here, and I'm gonna show you that if you don't have active DataGuard, it's not you cannot even do simple functions like describe customers. You need active DataGuard, right? So what we're gonna do then is just create a clone of that one so you can do whatever you want with that database, right? So here is the command, right? Clone database, and we're gonna give it this name, CHIC1, and we're gonna give it a unique name. And F here is the source database, and we want it in this database homes. As you can see in the illustration, we're doing the step number 1 that Paul told you about, right? We have the standby database creating this goal 1 copy, and here is the name that we're gonna give it. So let us show you that step, right? We give it a password, and then we get an ID. Here we're still running, and here is complete, right? Success. And if you look at the time that it took, 10:15 to about 10:23. So it takes about 8 to 9 minutes, as Paul mentioned, right? To just create a clone, and it's ready for you to just do whatever you want with that database. All right, so now we're gonna connect to that database, make sure that, yep, we can describe the table and we can see, right, the two records that we put in there. Now, I jump to the target database, right? We're gonna add one more record. So we're gonna connect to the database.
You mean the source database, Carlos?
I said target?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm getting confused. Hopefully you're not getting confused as I am. Right,
Sure.
the 107 is the source.
Yeah.
And we're gonna add one record, right? We're gonna insert Paul on this one and, right, commit it. And, right, so now that we did that, here I'm on 18, right? We're gonna check the data guard status because, I mean, the redo logs are sent continuously, but we wanted to show you that if you run list data guard status, it'll tell you that it was updated, I mean, a few minutes before, right? You need to run the command to just pull the data guard status. But the redos are happening all the time, right? It's just that we don't, on this command here, right, we don't pull the data guard status all the time until you need it, like here, right? So I'm gonna I'm gonna run it, and now you can see, right, that okay, it was 16 updated immediately. Okay, so now we're gonna do step 2. We added that record. We have a new standby database or updated standby database here. So we're gonna create that clone 2 that we're gonna call CHIC2, as you see here for this call 2, and the same standby database. So let's do that. Okay, so there, I'll just show you that, well, still running. And you can see here that it takes the same amount, around the same amount of time, right? So we got a new clone now ready. We're gonna connect to it and we're gonna check the records to make sure that Paul is in there, right? So it is in there, that's our clone. And now, right, we're gonna go and create a clone 3. But this clone is gonna be off of the gold image 2, as you can see here, right on the -F. Now we're indicating that we want the clone off of that gold image number 2, right? So in the password, run it, and here, right, just to show you quickly that it was created, here is the new name, C3, and we're gonna connect to it. Take a look at the records, and on this one, we're gonna delete Scott, right? One row deleted, and Scott is gone. We go to this one, the gold image, verify that, hey, we still have all of the records in there. Okay, that was kind of quick. Hopefully you saw it, right? It's right there. All 3 records are in there. Now we're gonna connect. We're gonna open another terminal session, right? It's to the target system, because on this one we want to show you the databases, and we want to delete that database, which is the source for this 3rd clone, and we want to show you that it doesn't affect it, right? It's some of the existing storage technologies, if you do that, your clone is going to be gone, not with us, right? So here, list the databases. Notice that C2, the gold image number 2, is gone. But if we go we're connected here to our C3 copy, which is the clone created from the gold image 2, right? You still have access to it. You can see the records there. Okay, now I mean, that's the end of our demonstration. But some customers have asked us, well, how do I find out the size of the clones, right? It's because in the current tooling for the Oracle Database Appliance, the browser user interface or the CLI, you can't do that, right? It'll just tell you that it's consuming the same space as the primary database when you create it, right? It's so what we're going to show you here, it's just using the ACFS utility for the moment, right? It's something that we're going to be integrating into our Oracle database tooling. But here, notice that I'm on 07. That's the source system. And it says number of snapshots 0. And you can see here the command ACFS util snap info. And this path is Paul showed you in the first slide of this session, right? This path in there where we keep the database clones, this direct path here. And this DBSFU, right? You have to specify the unique name in this command to get the clones. And you notice here on the source, right, with this arrow is the SFU. So that is the name, and we don't have any snapshots here. The snapshots are sitting on the target. So let's go to the target here, run the same thing. Notice that I specified DB-CHI, right? Again, right here, that's the unique name. And so here we can see the two clones that we were using, which are this DB underscore CHI C1 and C2. And we want to point this out, storage added to the snapshot, right? So the snapshot, because it's just pointers to the original data, is very minimal. But as we apply the redo logs and other stuff to bring up the database as independently and ready to be used, right? Then these are the new, the new size that we've added to the snapshot. Right, so this is the true size of the clone, 714.8 megabytes. As Paul mentioned, right, it's from 1.52% to about 10% when you start. The more data that you have in the database, the more efficient the percentage is going to be, or the lower the percentage is going to be. Okay, so here you can see the clone number 1 and clone number 2. So for the moment, if you're going to use this feature, you can run this command to take a look or get more details on those on the clone size.
Yeah. So in the ODA, like a browser user interface, each of these clones will show up as like 3.54 gigabytes. But in reality, the actual amount of storage that's used is actually 700 megabytes. So again, you can see how it's very storage efficient. But to most users, if he or she thinks that he has the full database, but in reality, it's only a fraction of that storage capacity.
Yeah. And if someone did the math on the size that Paul mentioned, 3.8 gigabyte or say 4 gigabytes, and you have 700, it is a large percentage, right? It's but these are empty databases, and we tested it with 100 gigabyte databases, and your clone size is close or around the 2%. Okay, so I mean that's it. That's the our demonstration. That's the video, Paul. I think we can take some questions. Okay, I see that someone asked, right? What if the client databases are using ASM? And you already replied, sorry, it's only for ACFS. Yeah, when you create a database on Oracle Database Appliance, you get the option to indicate if you want on ASM or ACFS. You gotta select ACFS. Eduardo is asking, do these slides will be shared in which page will be posted? Yes, they're gonna be shared. Oh. Okay, you know what, that reminds me that we have this other slide here to show you, right? It's on this second link, you see the YouTube playlist. this video recording is going to be posted in there, but that doesn't answer your question on the slides.
Yeah, we're trying to find a home for the slides to be distributed. So for now, maybe just email Carlos or me. We will send you the slides. Yes, because the video recording will be there. Obviously, it includes the slides, but if you want like the PDF version of the slides, we can send it to you. For now, you just email us, and we'll send you the PDF. And it's just our first name, last name at oracle.com. With Carlos, there's a .a in the middle for middle initial. Carlos.a.ortiz at oracle.com.
Yeah, and well, you can see these links over here, right? You can go get more information on. We have these blogs where we're even gonna put a blog about this in the next few weeks. Technical information. If you want to try the simulator, go to this link on the OCI Marketplace, download an Oracle Database Appliance simulator, and it has labs in there if you want to practice. Okay. Any other questions? Or Paul, is there something that we want to mention to our listeners here?
No, I just again just remind people that it is a very nice feature of ODA. And for example, I was talking to a customer that want to test the upgrade, so it's, it'll be easy to do. You can take a clone of the standby database and test the upgrade on that first. So there are a lot of utility to this, and then you can also make many copies to developers and testers from the standby database very quickly. Yeah.
I don't see any more questions. I mean, it's for partners or Oracle customers, right? You can reach out to your account team, reach out to us. Any additional questions that come up in the future for our Oracle personnel, sales consulting teams, or sales, you know how to reach us if any questions. So I think Paul, that's it, right?
Okay.
Thank you everyone for joining.
Yeah, we'll see you at the next webcast.
All right. Thank you. Bye.